Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, welcome to my channel. I am Kinsey, and over the summer I was on a road trip across Colorado to find the unique and hidden places that Colorado has to offer. And I'm currently back in school, so my travel days are filled with schoolwork and homework currently. But in the meantime, we're going to fill those travel days with the dark, strange, and mysterious past of Colorado and present. So if you are into the dark, strange, and mysterious and a little bit of travel, then you are at the right place because we have it here. And today's video is nothing short of the dark and strange of Colorado. So let's dive into today's video. Once again, we will be going back to the late 1800s in today's story, to a small little city once known as Old Colorado City. Now, if you're not familiar with the location of Old Colorado City, it sits on the west side of Colorado Springs near Red Rock Open Space and Manitou Springs. However, back in the day, it was an unincorporated area near Colorado Springs, so it hadn't quite come into connection with Colorado Springs quite yet. So, just to give you an idea of where this story takes place. So, this story begins in Old Colorado City in 1885. When the Kendall family celebrated the birth of their youngest son, Roy Kendall. And for 13 years, life in Old Colorado was simple. The father, A&M Kendall, was a miner in one of the mines close by, and Mrs. Kendall was the homekeeper. And Roy was much like any other 13-year-old boy of his time. He was full of adventure and full of energy, and he was often seen roaming the streets of Old Colorado City. However, sadly, on October 20th, 1898, tragedy would strike the Kendall home. A tragedy that Roy Kendall himself was expecting. And in the weeks leading up to this tragedy, Roy Kendall would have a continuous nightmare, one that he would tell his mother about, and he would go on to tell her that he would know exactly when and how he would pass. He would go on to tell her that he would be out hunting with his dog Rags, and a large rock would crush him. However, his dog Rags would survive, and eerily enough, at the time of his passing, a carrier pigeon would appear at the Kendall home and tap on the window. This wasn't just a fleeting nightmare that Roy Kendall had. This was a dream that had kept coming to him for nearly 6 weeks. And every morning he would wake up and tell his mother that he had this dream about his death once again. Now, his parents would usually chop this up as an overactive imagination or a young boy going through changes. They didn't believe that Roy Kendall was actually predicting his own passing. Man, if this was my kid and my kid was telling me about a dream like this, you're never leaving my sight without parental supervision. Again, you're not going hunting, you're not going anywhere near large rocks, you're not doing it. I don't care. I get it was 1898, and in reality, she probably just was like, this kid is losing his marbles, but let's just keep feeding him and hope for the best, because, worst case scenario, we gotta put him into a mental hospital. What? Who is this kid? Why is he talking about his own death? Final destination thing is happening. However, on October 20th, 1898, Roy Kendall and his father, A.M. Kendall, and his dog Rags would be out hunting rabbits in an area what is now known as Red Rock Open Space, only half a mile away from their home. And while exploring they came across a burrow beneath a large rock. And as they examined it, the large rock came loose. And in an instant, Roy Kendall was crushed. And his dog Rags would narrowly escape, however, not without injury. But sadly, Roy Kendall would pass away on October 20th, 1898. Later on, a close family friend would actually go on to write the story of Roy Kendall and talk of his premonition leading up to his actual passing. However, strangely, before she could publish her story, she herself would unexpectedly pass away, leaving Roy Kendall's eerie premonition to become a local legend in Old Colorado City. However, after his death, his older sister, Mrs. Hesse Van Meter, would go on to reduce all of his statements into writing. And before his tragic death, like I said before, Roy would have this dream on repeat, and every morning he would tell his mother of this dream. And I'm going to read you a quote from the actual story that Roy would tell his mother from his dream. He went on to tell his mother, "It was the same dream almost every day, Mama. Such an awful dream I had. Oh, the rock. It won't hurt you, will it, Mama? It mustn't fallen on you, too. I went away with Papa and Rags, and all at once a dark came over me, and I couldn't breathe. I can't breathe now, Mama. It was so awful. Then a great bird came, and said it would take me out of this place, and give me a pair of wings, and it did, too. We went far away, so far. And there was music there." Okay, first off, this dream gives me 100% Final Destination vibes. Like, Roy, buddy, if you know this is gonna happen, I don't know, maybe just avoid rocks, avoid hunting, avoid going outside. Just personal opinion. Anyways, I digress. I need to stop getting distracted. Anyways, the boy would go on to say, "Yes, Raggy, it was you who went with me into the burrow. It buried you too. Only you didn't go away with me, did you, Raggy?" I'm gonna keep my comment to myself because it kind of sounds like Scooby-Doo talking right now. Anyways, Miss Kendall would go on to say that every morning for nearly 6 weeks, Roy would have this dream, and he would continue to tell her that she couldn't go near this rock. And the day before his death, he said goodbye to his mother and his sister and her children. And Mrs. Kendall went on to say he said goodbye to his papa last, and told him, "Don't make a garden anymore, as I won't be here to help you, and you can't work so hard anymore." Why are we letting this kid outside? Like, we know he's having this dream, so maybe just put this boy in a bubble and keep him there. Because, like, this kid is like, oh, October 20th is coming up, and I gotta get out of here. Like, there's a carrier pigeon coming for me, so we gotta go. Like, I gotta say my goodbyes. No, just keep this kid in a bubble. What are we doing? What are we doing? On the morning of October 20th, 1898, Roy would do something so strange and out of his nature, and his mother would go on to say that, well, when Roy got up that morning, there was a bird tapping on its beak on his window. He grabbed his rifle, the one his sister Hesse got for him, and went up to Hesse's house, and at first shot, he killed that little bird. He took the bird, one wing in each hand, and jerked each wing right off the body, and then put both wings in his pocket. Roy, what are we doing? Have you not heard of the butterfly effect? Like, at this point, I'm convinced that you may have just caused your own death simply for killing that bird and ripping its wings off and putting them in your pocket. Like, what are we doing? The 1800s were a weird time, man. Anyways, Roy was then reported to have said, "There, now I shall have wings when I go away. Say goodbye to me and tell me goodbye, Hesse." And his sister Hesse would at first be reluctant in saying goodbye. She would say things like, "Adios, see you later, kid." But Roy was persistent, and he wouldn't accept anything but goodbye. And eventually his sister would cave and tell him goodbye, not realizing that that would be the last time she would see her brother alive. And following this interaction from Roy and his sister, Roy would hurry home and get his dog Rags and his father as well. And Mrs. Kendall would go on to say, "This was the last time my boy said bye to me. I'm going to a better place than this, Mama." And Mrs. Kendall would say, "I didn't see my boy alive again after this." And Roy and his father and Rags would soon head out to this burrow, rock ledge area where Roy had seen a rabbit burrow the day prior. And once Roy Kendall and his father, Mr. Kendall, made it to this rock ledge, Mr. Kendall would go on to tell his side of the events that followed. He would go on to say, "When we got to the ledge, I noticed how far over it hung. Roy shouted out and made a dash for the hole, which was directly under this large rock. I told him to wait a minute till I see if everything is safe. Though I felt fear somehow oppressing me. I felt like something bad was about to happen. I had a crowbar with me and started around the rock's ledge to investigate, and I only had my back turned for a second when the large rock came down on my boy, burying both him and Rags as they stood together." Is this story where Final Destination, like the writers of Final Destination, got their ideas? Because, like, y'all knew for 6 weeks that this boy was having this dream, and you guys still went to the same location where Roy was telling you he was going to die. And you guys still went there. Like, man, 1800s, what a weird time to be alive. Like, that's all I'm gonna say. Anyways, Mr. Kendall would go on to say, "I didn't realize the meaning of my boy's predictions of the death even after I had seen him taken dead from under the rock." Roy told you for 6 weeks, and you still didn't believe him. Anyways, at the undertaker's, we found the part of his skull was gone. I sent my son-in-law back to the ledge, and there he found the missing part of the bone. And all that dream he had came back to me. The injury to Rags, the bird that gave him the wings, the strange bird that visited us that morning, and the bird that he killed at my daughter's home. I've been a sinful man in my life. I distrusted God and man, but I took a solemn vow that there would be no more blasphemy, no more sinful acts would be mine. And that was over 2 years ago, and I've tried to live right ever since." Though that wouldn't be the only death that Roy would go on to predict. In the weeks leading up to his own death, Roy would go on to tell his mother that after Roy passed, his mother would pass and then his father, and after each time, a carrier pigeon would appear at the house and tap its beak on the window. And on February 15th, 1904, Roy Kendall's second prediction would come true. And Mrs. Kendall would pass away at 5 o'clock in the morning after battling with pneumonia just 3 days prior. And after his wife's death, Mr. Kendall would go on to say, "When that carrier pigeon came to the window last week, it seemed to my wife as if something worse was in store for us. But I tried to do right since that time in '98, and I don't think I will have to learn the lesson again. It was a visitation of God to teach me right living, and I will not break my own vow now till the end. No, not till the end." And Mr. Kendall would go on to move out of Colorado later on and move to California to be with his daughter Hessie and his grandchildren. And Mr. Kendall would actually end up passing away in his 60s, making Roy's third prediction come true. And albeit a few years later than what was originally predicted, but still in the order that Roy predicted. I found this story, originally I was under the assumption that it was a local legend. However, Roy Kendall is actually buried in Fairview Cemetery here in Colorado Springs, just outside of Old Colorado City, and attached to his grave is his obituary, and it did state that he was actually crushed by a large rock in Red Rock open space, and that his family really did say that he predicted his own death. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Do you think that this young child actually predicted his own death, or did his family make up this elaborate story to tell the newspapers back in the time? I don't know. There's no theory connected to his death or his predictions of their deaths, so let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I found this to be a very interesting local true story legend for Colorado Springs, and that this young 13-year-old boy predicted his own ending, we'll go with. But yeah, let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this story, and if there's any other local legends that I may not know about, drop those recommendations down in the comments. I do read every comment. What a whirlwind of a story. Roy Kendall and his mother are really actually buried in Fairview Cemetery, so if you ever plan on visiting this cemetery, remember to remain respectful to the graves and the tombstones nearby, as a lot of the older tombstones in this cemetery are beginning to deteriorate quite a bit. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, or even travel videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. I'm getting pretty close to 60 subscribers, and I know for most people that's probably not a big deal, but it really does help out the channel quite a bit, and I would appreciate it if you guys just would subscribe or share the channel, whatever. I really would appreciate that. I appreciate every single one of my subscribers. I read every single one of your comments, and yeah, so I hope that you guys have a good day, night, week, whatever time of day you are watching this, and don't forget to stay hydrated, and I will see you guys in the next video.